Do you know of a stellar leader or an outstanding organization that deserves a proper shout-out? Nominate them for IBJ's awards. From 40 in their 40s and Women of Influence to Nonprofit and Healthcare Excellence Awards, we're celebrating rising stars, seasoned leaders, and organizations making a difference. Discover which programs are accepting nominations now at ibj.com/nominate.
Welcome to the Indiana Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Maura Johnson, and in today's episode, I sit down with Indiana Court of Appeals Chief Judge Elizabeth Tavitas to hear all about her career and her new role as Chief Judge of the court. A graduate of the University of Notre Dame School of Law, Judge Tavitas spent several years of her career serving in Lake County, where she was a deputy prosecutor in the Lake County Prosecutor's Office, a juvenile public defender in Lake Superior Court's Juvenile Division, and later a Lake Superior Court judge. In 2018, Tavitas was appointed to the Court of Appeals by then-Governor Eric Holcomb. Her new role as Chief Judge is a 3-year term and will allow her to represent the court at public events, serve as the court's liaison to the legislative and executive branches, and lead the administrative functions of the appellate court. In this episode, Tavitas shares how she got her start in the legal career, the passion she's maintained throughout it, and what she's looking forward to in this new role. But before we get into the episode, here's a word from our sponsor, Taft.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
First of all, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I appreciate it.
My pleasure to be here.
So just to start out, for those who may not be as familiar with the Court of Appeals, can you kind of explain your role specifically, the cases you handle, like what the court does?
So we have 3 levels of courts in Indiana. We have the trial courts where all the proceedings are happening live in person with witnesses and juries. And when those decisions are made, if a litigant is not satisfied with that decision, they can then get an automatic appeal to, most cases, go to the Court of Appeals. We hear every type of case except for tax cases, life without parole, or a death penalty case. We have a tax court in Indiana, and that goes to the tax court. And then the other 2 go directly to the Supreme Court in Indiana. So we take every case that is filed. We do approximately 2,100 cases a year. We hand down 2,100 opinions per year, after they're fully briefed. When someone submits their appeal, we get briefs from each side, and we get the transcript of the trial court proceedings. And so we don't have live witnesses. We don't have juries. We are looking at the paper, record, the transcript, the briefs, and we do our own research and writing, and that's how our opinions are decided and handed down.
And so I know you joined the court in 2018. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey to the bench and kind of what led up in your career to this?
It's interesting because for some reason, somewhere long ago, I always knew I wanted to be a judge. So when I went to Notre Dame undergrad, I had a professor. I took philosophy of law, and he tapped me on the shoulder one day walking on campus and said, I think you would be a good lawyer. You should really apply to law school. And I was interested in being a lawyer. I was particularly interested in criminal law at that time and ended up going to Notre Dame Law School. And knowing that I wanted to be a judge, but you can't just decide to be a judge, I just followed my passions in the law my entire career. And my first stop was at the Lake County Prosecutor's Office, where I was a deputy prosecutor for 3 years. Then I went on to the other side and was a juvenile public defender and also had my own private law practice for 5 years. I was then tapped on the shoulder to become a part-time magistrate, which is called a referee. I did that. And then I was encouraged to apply for the trial court bench at the Lake Superior Court Civil Division, Room 3 in Gary, Indiana, the family court. And I was passionate about juveniles and family matters at that time and was lucky to be appointed to that position. And then I knew that serving on the Court of Appeals would have been the ultimate in bringing all of my experience from being a trial court lawyer in trial courts and then serving on the trial court bench for many years. So, goodness, I've been on the bench now 28 years, I think. It's hard to believe.
Yeah. Was there a moment that, you said that you kind of always wanted to be a judge. Do you remember a moment specifically when that idea kind of popped in your head? What was that like?
No, I don't remember exactly. I knew it when I was at Notre Dame, and I'm not sure why. I think I've always had this idea of public service and justice and integrity and wanted to be a part of that. So at Notre Dame, they promote service, and at the law school, their slogan is educating a different kind of lawyer, which means going out in the world and doing good. And that's what Father Hesburgh said to us when I graduated in 1985 as an undergraduate. He said, "You are lucky to have this degree. Now go forth and do good," which is what he would always tell the graduates at every ceremony, graduation ceremony. So it was embedded in me. And my father went to Notre Dame. He received 3 degrees in mechanical engineering. We had no lawyers or judges in my family, so I have no idea where that came from. But I think the idea of service and helping others, and I watched my family always helping others and serving others and small but meaningful ways.
And I think it's interesting also that, speaking on your time in Lake County, you went from both sides, from being prosecutor, deputy prosecutor to public defender. Can you kind of talk about that time of your life and kind of, just the experience of being on both sides?
I am very thankful that I've been on both sides because as a judge, you learn that there are 2 sides to every story. So I enjoyed prosecuting. I was able to do 20 jury trials in 3 years, which was amazing. That was great experience, which gave me the experience then to go to the other side and represent juveniles charged with offenses that would be crimes if they were adults. And it was a great way of learning from having the burden of proving a case beyond a reasonable doubt as a prosecutor, and then going to the defense side and representing a juvenile and making sure that the state proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt and that my client received all the due process entitled to him or her by our state constitution and U.S. Constitution. So it was a wonderful experience.
What was the transition like for you going as, working as a trial court judge to then stepping into, I know you said magistrate, and then also now being at the appellate court?
So coming to the Court of Appeals was just a dream come true, and it still is. It's the best job ever, and I was so ready for it. I had done so much at the trial court level that I thought that I could serve better and more people if I was on the Court of Appeals. And I was able to bring not only my experience as a litigator in trial courts, but on the bench, but also my passions of things that I've been involved in throughout my career, such as access to justice, civics education, family law matters. So the transition was daunting in the sense that I'm coming onto a court with all of these experienced judges that I've looked up to all these years and coming in as an equal. So in order to be an equal, I had to work really hard to make sure that I was contributing the best that I could.
Mhm.
But it's been a wonderful experience. I will say the Court of Appeals is a well-oiled machine with great mentors. I've had wonderful mentors, and they still mentor me every day. So as chief now, I had the pleasure and the opportunity to be mentored by the three previous chiefs on our court, Judge Vedic, Judge Altice, and Judge Bradford.
I want to go back to what you were saying about how being an appellate judge has given you opportunities to kind of build on these, topics that you're passionate about. Can you tell me more about those efforts and kind of how the court contributes to that work?
So our Court of Appeals is so involved. Each one of us on the court is involved in so many commissions and committees. The Chief Justice Rush, appoints us, and we also have our own interests where we go out and we serve. So I've had the opportunity to chair the Family Law Task Force, which is an initiative by the National Center for State Courts to provide better access to justice and more efficient and less traumatic experiences for families going through divorce. So I've headed that up for the last several years. We have recommendations. Our committee board members are lawyers, judges, psychologists, and we are all trying to implement the recommendations of our Family Law Task Force report to make Indiana a better place for families going through divorce. So that's one area that I'm passionate about. The other is I've always been involved. It used to be called the Pro Bono Commission since 2007. I served on the Pro Bono Commission then, and now it's called the Indiana Bar Foundation. And I serve on the board for the Coalition for Court Access and the Indiana Bar Foundation. One side, the Coalition for Court Access, is for working on access to justice, which is near and dear to my heart because I had programs at the trial court level to help pro se litigants with filling out their paperwork and getting resources to refer them to organizations that could help them. And then on the other side is the civics aspect of the Indiana Bar Foundation. And my children went through the We the People program in Munster, and I served as a volunteer judge for many of those competitions that happened. And I've now been able to do that at the statewide level. And so I've continued that work. And then I also serve on the Notre Dame Law Association board, which um, has been near and dear to my heart as well, giving back to the school that has always been there behind me every time I applied for a position. I always had the backing of Notre Dame Law School. The deans would always back me and write letters. So now I'm mentoring students there, and I co-chair the student group organization. So I meet with the students twice a year, the student leaders of the organizations, and help them with their programming and go and speak for their different organizations. But I also get to mentor students on their career paths and answer questions that they may have about what to do after they graduate. And then we also advise the dean on what the students are thinking.
What's it like, obviously graduating from Notre Dame, being able to go back and mentor these students and kind of help them along the career paths when you yourself were mentored in that way?
I think that there's many more opportunities now than when I remember being at Notre Dame Law School. So I am often called to talk to students one-on-one. I do a lot of one-on-one meetings by Zoom, helping students navigate their career path afterwards. I'm also promoting state court clerkships. Notre Dame is known for placing students. They're one of the top that have students that acquire federal court clerkships. But state court clerkships is so important because most people end up working in state courts. That's where most litigation, I don't know what the statistics are, 95% of litigation happens in state courts. So I'm promoting that. I'm also speaking with the women legal forum at Notre Dame Law School coming up just to talk to women about their career paths and being able to answer their questions. And what I always promote is work-life balance. It's difficult to raise a family, love your career as a lawyer, and try to find that good work-life balance. So I enjoy being able to talk to them about how I was able to do that.
How were you able to do that? Can you kind of give some examples?
I can. I always chose jobs that I loved, and I made sure that the hours that were required of me were hours that I could do. And a lot of times, especially if you're got a jury trial, you have to be focused on that. And so I did that for 3 years. I only had one child at that time, but by the time I had three children, I knew I couldn't be a trial lawyer and be a litigator. So that's when I moved into different careers. And that's what's so great about having a legal degree is that you can make those shifts.
I also, of course, want to talk about your new role as Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals. What was it like receiving that nomination, and how does this new title kind of impact your role with the court?
Well, I'm very grateful that my colleagues have the confidence in me to lead. And I'm humbled by the opportunity to lead the court after we've had so many great leaders that came before me. And as I mentioned before, all three of the chiefs that have been on the court while I've been serving on the court have been great mentors. And I've learned from them, and they continue to mentor me. The best part is the ability to do the outreach and the speaking engagements to show what the Court of Appeals does. We're a well oiled machine. We work hard, we give to our community, and we can have faith in the judiciary because of the way we conduct our business. We take the law as written, we stay in our own lane. We're an independent branch of government, and we take the law and the facts of the case and the record. There's no politics involved. And so to be able to educate others about what the court does is a great honor. I'm also asked to speak for a lot of students, young students and women's students. And I can encourage them and show them what it's like to be on the Court of Appeals and to dream big and start dreaming as a young child and follow your dreams. And I always tell any group that I'm speaking to when I'm mentoring them, I will be your mentor today. I will be your mentor next week. In 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Always call upon me. And I hope that that message sinks in with them and that they know that they can call me or that they'll call others.
What has been some of the best advice you've been given so far in this role from past chief judges?
To listen to everyone, take it all in, and lead the group to the solutions and the decisions. I don't make the decisions. It's a group effort. There's 15 of us. Everyone has a say. Everyone has an equal say. And we have a great group of judges that are the brightest and the most civil judges that I can imagine working with. And so it's an easy process. I'm lucky in the sense that we all get along. We like each other. We go out to lunch. We can have laughs together. We can disagree, but we disagree respectfully. And so just continuing the tradition of the civility and the collegiality and working together. So I'm leading, and I'm leading by letting them, all of us lead together and forming the decisions that are best for the court.
Mhm. Something that I love in my role being able to work with the courts is, seeing you guys not only on the bench, but also, in real life where you guys are just very personable. Do you feel like, this role as chief judge is allowing you to do that even more and to kind of, I guess meet with these kids and these students that you're mentoring on kind of a human level to let them know like, hey, this is.
Absolutely. I think any chief before me has done the same thing, but it's a thrill when I love to mentor, I love to give back. So it's my time these next 3 years to have that experience with these students that I may not have had if I wasn't chief.
Mm, yeah. And I know one thing I want to note is that obviously now the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals are being led by women. Do you have, any thoughts about that? And kind of, you mentor a lot of women. Can you kind of just talk about how important this is to you and to, the people that you speak with?
It's important for women, period. Whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a judge, or you're a woman in the state of Indiana. I've never thought about it as, oh goodness, I'm a woman and now I'm chief. But others have pointed out, yes, you're the third. I'm only the third chief woman judge to lead the court. But if you look at the other way, I am only the third in the history of the Court of Appeals. And so, although I don't see myself as any different than a man, I suppose women see me as someone different. And I'm happy to be a role model for women. And, the message that I will give to young women is dream, as I've said before, dream big, work hard, be ethical, and the doors will open for you. And that's really my success story is just working hard, and being honest, and being civil and listening to all sides. And it's led me to this position. So I'm grateful and honored.
One topic that has been, very present the last few weeks is this topic about judicial safety. How in your role as chief judge are you able to, pursue and advocate for safety measures? I know that a lot's happening in the legislature. How are you able to kind of advocate for that?
Well, I'm fortunate that two of our former chief judges, Altice and Bradford, really have brought this forward, and with them with the Chief Justice Fresh and Justice Goff, they have moved the ball forward for this legislation. My role is to support the efforts in any way that I can, and also to offer suggestions where I see that there may be some security concerns that I have felt over the 28 years as a judge. And so if I can whisper in somebody's ear or promote or support any efforts, I'm not afraid to speak up and and point out what needs to be done. And there are many things that can be done. It's a scary world with what's going on with those in the three branches of government on the state level and the federal level for security reasons. And we all have to work together to find solutions.
Do you feel encouraged by, not only the work that's happening on the state level, but I know some stuff is happening on the federal level as well?
I am encouraged by it. Unfortunately, it seems that we have to have instances of violence against a judge or any other public figure before work is actually done to solve the problem.
And just to wrap things up, overall, what would you say you're kind of looking forward to most in this new role and kind of the year ahead in the Court of Appeals?
Well, I'm excited that we're celebrating 250 years of our independence in the United States. And that's exciting to me to be a part of that. And I think just the outreach that I get to do as chief. I've been able to do it on traveling oral arguments, but doing speaking engagements and talking with you here today and just really promoting the good that our court does and to foster faith in the judiciary. That is my goal is that we are visible, that people trust what we're doing, that they know that it's not nonpartisan what we do. Politics do not come into play on our court. We all work hard. We all are delivering our best and writing the best opinions that we can. And that's the message that I want Hoosiers to know, is that we are doing our best for everyone and giving everyone a fair opportunity when they submit an appeal to our court. And then just continuing to mentor any way that I can. I get asked to speak at certain organizations, and there are some places that I want to go and speak and offer my services to speak and mentor. One thing that we have going on, as you know, in Indiana is we have a lack of lawyers. We need more lawyers to go to law school and stay in Indiana. So I want to promote Indiana. It's a great place to practice law. And I want to also encourage lawyers to apply for trial court judgeships or run for election. And also, every time there's a vacancy on the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court, for them to put their name in the hat. A lot of people are afraid to do that. And you can't get the job if you don't put in your application. And we've seen dwindling numbers, say that again, dwindling numbers of applicants for the appellate positions. I'm not sure why that is happening. And so I would encourage lawyers to do their best, shine in whatever area of law that they can shine in, and apply to the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court when openings come up.
You mentioned your role with We the People. Can you kind of talk about the specific roles you have and just the importance of this program and what it does for civics education?
It is an amazing program, and I first became acquainted with it when my children were in grade school in the 4th grade and competing in the We the People competitions. And then they went on to middle school and competed. Then they went on to high school and competed. And my daughter she won the state championship in Indiana for Munster High School, and they went on to the national championship. So throughout it, I started out as a lawyer or judge going in and helping the students prepare for the oral arguments. And then I ended up judging locally in Lake County. And then now, since I've been on the Court of Appeals, I judge from time to time the statewide championships. And even during COVID, did it by Zoom. I also volunteer for the mock trial competitions at the state level, but I also do the mock trial or moot court competitions at Notre Dame Law School, Wabash College, and IU McKinney Law School, I believe. So I'm passionate about civics education, and to see these young students and what the knowledge that they have at such a young age, arguing constitutional principles in front of judges and lawyers that are judging them, is amazing to see. And to see in them future leaders is inspiring. And I even have experience of myself with my children. 2 of my 3 children ended up going to law school. So it's a great program for students to see and understand the Constitution and how to apply it.
Yeah, and I would imagine, I remember learning about the Constitution, obviously, in school, but I would imagine We the People is a very different experience because you're kind of applying, legitimately applying it to the work that you're doing. And I think, that's kind of the best way to learn.
And they're asking questions. The judges are asking questions, and these students are answering those questions based upon their preparation, just as as in the Court of Appeals when a lawyer advocates and does an oral argument before the Court of Appeals. So it's inspiring to see these children, and I do think it makes a difference for Indiana to have these students have that experience early on in their education and to have an opportunity to meet lawyers and judges and learn about the Constitution and the founding fathers and how they can serve government in their future careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you had briefly mentioned, obviously, this year is 250th anniversary of the United States. Can you tell me about some of the, events happening this year that you're involved in to celebrate and commemorate that?
Well, one event that we are involved in, and we're excited about this, is we are collaborating with the Indiana Historical Society. On Tuesday, April 28th, we will be hosting a traveling oral argument. I will be serving on that panel, and our audience will be several high schools that will attend, and then they will see exhibits at the Historical Society. So we are very excited about that.
Chief Judge Tavitas, thank you so much for joining me.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Indiana Lawyer Podcast. For more legal news from around the state, be sure to head to our website at theindianalawyer.com. While you're there, you can find more episodes from the podcast and subscribe to our daily newsletter, which includes the latest legal updates delivered right to your inbox. You can also find stories from across the IBJ media publication, including the Indianapolis Business Journal and Inside Indiana Business.
Stay ahead with Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand, your go-to source for the latest business news across the Hoosier State. Join hosts Gary Dick and Alex Brown every weekday morning and afternoon for concise updates on Indiana's top business stories. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app or listen at ibjpodcasts.com.
Your commute just got smarter. Turn drive time into growth time. The IBJ Media Podcast Network gives you front row access to leaders shaping Indiana's economy, culture, and future. No filler, just smart, relevant, local storytelling you won't get anywhere else. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.